One, it's not too late. It's never too late.
Never too late.
You could start today, and in 5 years from now, your life will be totally different than it was. All you have to do is make some changes.
Matt, quick question. In this game of entrepreneurship, do you feel like you are forcing yourself to do that work, or do you feel like you are drawn to doing it?
The end result is worth the struggle. And so even if you don't enjoy it, it's probably worth it to not have to work for the rest of your life. So it's about conscious consumption, and it's about being methodical with how you deploy your resources. And I've had tenants, for instance, at the Landlord tenant board, play my videos. Oh, he's rich. And the adjudicator agreed I should pay double the fine.
What is up, YouTube? In today's video, myself and Mike Rosehart, we react to your comments. Yeah. Are you proud of what you left us in the comments? Because we're going to dive into them in today's video. And this is a little bit unlike, the other content I do on my YouTube channel, so I want your feedback. Do you guys want to see this more often? Would you enjoy this if it was a regular series with either myself or other guests or Mike? Let me know in that comment section down below. Otherwise, let's dive in to your comments. What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here with Mike Rosehart, and today's video, we're going to jump into the comment section. So we're just going to see exactly how you guys keep my comment section, whether it's a nice place or one of those dark little corners of the internet. In general, the comments are usually pretty fantastic on my YouTube channel. Really appreciate you guys that do post nice comments. But let's dive into just the comments. Mike hasn't really had the time to check out any of the comments on the recent videos we've released, so this will be kind of exciting. And honestly, there's so many comments these days that I don't get a chance to respond to all of them, regardless of how nice or unnice they are. So this will be a great chance for us just to review a few of the comments with you guys. But reminder, if you want to see me responding to comments more often, you definitely need to be following me on Instagram, where I repost all the meanest comments and my responses to them. For whatever reason, people seem to really like the mean comments because it's one of my most popular things I do on Instagram. So let's see whether YouTube likes it the same way. Mike Thomas left us a comment on the dark side of entrepreneurship. Videos like these are great for both new and seasoned investors and entrepreneurs. The reason is that for myself, when you just start out and is on your grind, you lose a lot of friends and become really lonely, especially if you have a full-time job and doing overtime to keep your income up so that you can look good to the banks and lenders. After that, you have to work hard on growing your business. In the early stages of growing your business, you don't have a lot of money to hire people to help, and so you have to squeeze every waking moment into this business. Social events, gathering, 0 time, partying, 0 time, family events, almost 0 time, hanging out with friends, 0 time, everything else, almost 0 time. Sometimes the whole week seems like it was just one day, where one day finishes and the next one starts as a blur. Many times you doubt yourself a lot because other people are having success and you are not, and you are wondering, what am I doing wrong? I must be the greatest idiot on the face of the earth. I am a big L. Just give it up and stick to your 9 to 5. At least you will get rewarded every 2 weeks. With all this in your head, you wake up the next day and do it all over again and expect to eventually one day get a different result so that you can be financially independent. Isn't that the definition of insanity? So videos like these help a lot to us new entrepreneurs know that they are not that big of an idiot after all is said and done. Thanks to Eminem, Mike, and Matt. Awesome, really appreciate that, Mike. I think that that's something both of us can definitely sympathize with, that idea that there's not enough hours in the day, that, if you make business your #1 priority, a lot of other things are going to fall to the wayside.
Yeah, it's a true dark side. Great comment. Here's what I gotta say to you. Mike Thomas, you're grinding right now and it feels dark and it's hard, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I know it sounds like it's insanity that every day you keep doing the same thing, you're not getting the result, but every great entrepreneur has been through that point where they're just throwing darts to see what will stick, and eventually you're gonna hit the bullseye. Eventually, if you stay with it, if you don't give up, you continue to tweak your strategy and improve and get better over time, you will eventually strike gold. And so don't give up. There's a lot of great memes I see on Instagram when I'm scrolling where you're digging and you're just about at the gold and you're like, I've been doing this for 2 years, I give up. Don't give up, hang in there. We're all here suffering with you through entrepreneurship. Eventually you break through the clouds, you break through the darkness, and it's sunny and it's bright, and you're in Orlando for the winters. So next thing you know, you'll be there. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for the comment.
Yeah, I love it, especially building upon that idea that you're just around the corner from your success. That's something I'm constantly trying to remind myself. And in my opinion, your success truly is inevitable if you know you're never going to quit. Like, it literally just, like, when people talk to me about the success I've had with real estate investing, my YouTube channel, any other entrepreneur endeavors I've undertaken, it really, to me, like, it was just inevitable that I would be successful because I knew I wasn't going to quit. And I think that that's something that's really important. If you know that, like, you're doing it no matter what, it can be a lot easier to let the haters and the doubters fall to the wayside if you know that, hey, I'm going to fail a lot before I win, but I'm going to win as long as I never quit.
Well, you don't lose until you've quit, just like you don't, lose money until you sell the stock, right? So there's no loss until you give up. So don't give up, and just know that entrepreneurship, it can be hard during the journey, but the end result is quite often worth it.
Yeah.
And find a way to enjoy the journey. That would be my suggestion to you, Mike.
Absolutely.
Maybe you tone back a little bit. Maybe you crank out one night a week. You're like, hey, this is like Friday night is my time with my friends. It's my time with my family. The business will be there on Saturday when you wake up. It'll be there on Sunday. It'll be there on Monday.
Yeah.
But take a day for yourself. If it takes you, 2 months longer or a year longer to hit your goal, that's okay. Slow down just a little bit. And I know it feels like you need to put that intensity in, but believe it or not, the deal's still there tomorrow if you take one night off a week.
Yeah, I think just like we do with our money, we should also do with our time. So it's very common in the personal finance world or the FIRE movement to talk about paying yourself first with money. I think do the exact same thing with your time. So a lot of us that are very driven, that are very focused on our FIRE journey or our real estate journey, we know that we're going to spend the time and energy necessary to be successful. So literally what we need to do is just carve out whatever other time's important. So if that's time with family, make time for it. If it's time with friends, make time for it. But set a very specific time allowance to it as well. So like maybe you're just going to spend 2 hours with friends this week, but you're going to make sure that you really spend it with them. You're going to be very active, very present. You're going to put the phone away. You're literally going to put it on silent, whatever it takes. But you're going to make sure that those 2 hours you spend with them are really deep and valuable versus having very superficial conversations where you're only half paying attention, but you maybe spent 4 hours with them, but there was a game on and you're on your phone scrolling, all that stuff. I really think just with our time, or just like we do with our money, we should do with our time, and that's pay yourself first.
100%.
So here's a comment from Kenneth Lee that I thought was great. Matt, quick question. In this game of entrepreneurship, do you feel like you are forcing yourself to do that work, or do you feel like you are drawn to doing it? So what are your thoughts on that, Mike? Do you force yourself to put in the work every day on the real estate empire, or is it something that you're drawn to?
This is just my personality type, but I'm the type of person who, I'm the wallflower by nature, so I'll sit back, and until someone pulls my hand and drags me into something, I don't go out and look for the business. But once I'm into it, once I'm out there on the dance floor, I'll be the last one to close it. I'll be there to the very end. I'm known to close out events. I'm known to stay to the end. Once I'm in something, I'm loyal as hell to that idea, or to that. I get almost too married to the idea, and I won't give up. So that's just me. I feel like once I'm in it, I can't stop. But getting me into it can be like a force. I need someone to pull me into the business idea, to pull me into that, like the partner or whatever it is, to get me into that idea. Once I've convinced myself that I'm doing that, I'm all in. And that's just me. I can't even stop. It isn't even about the money sometimes. I just can't give up on the idea. I got to see it through to its end.
Interesting perspective. For myself, I'd say it's really an ebb and flow. So there's times that I'm drawn to it or compelled to just put in that extra time, that extra effort. Then there's other days where I'm definitely don't feel as passionate. And so in those situations, I'm forcing myself to kind of break through that barrier or overcome that hurdle or obstacle, whatever the case may be. So for me, it's definitely dynamic. It's ever changing. But overall, I would say I'm drawn to it. If there wasn't a spark inside of me that wanted to do what I'm doing, making a video a day on YouTube, building a real estate empire, starting education companies, things of that nature, I don't think I would. So I think that for me personally, it definitely is something that there's at least a spark there that draws me to the entrepreneurship journey.
Yeah, there are hard days no matter what. I think the underlying element here is it hard for us some days too? And there are days we wake up and we don't want to do it, but I think the overall goal is greater than our need on that day to like be selfish. And some days we just take the day off. I'm sure that you take days where you just are like, today I'm trying not to be an entrepreneur. I'm trying to just shut down and detox. Maybe not. But some days I do, some days I don't. Depends. It's hard as an entrepreneur to shut your phone off. I will say that much. I'm even glancing at it now.
All right, so here's a comment on being bored with retirement. So Kevin Brunette said, the human condition on full display. Those who have the drive and skills necessary to retire early in life rarely retire from making money, while those of us who don't enjoy the battle that comes with becoming financially free struggle to reach the goal of early retirement. I can't wait to be able to pour my time into passions that aren't centered around gaining wealth. Perhaps that's what's holding me back, LOL. Either way, I'm looking forward to getting there. So just any thoughts or comments on that, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, he hits on a good point about the human condition and not all humans being the same. We're all different individuals, and some of us enjoy the journey. Like, I actually enjoy some of the deprivation in fire, and that's part of what drew me to it, was that like my nature tended to really lend itself well to the ability to delay gratification. I'm the guy who will stand in the cold shower for like 10 minutes when everyone else won't. I almost get like a rise out of that. And so I can see how if you didn't, and it was very hard for you to step into that cold shower, because it can feel like that at times, getting into entrepreneurship or getting into fire can be hard. So here's what I gotta say. The end result is worth the struggle. And so even if you don't enjoy it, it's probably worth it to not have to work for the rest of your life. So yeah, it can be hard, but yeah, keep struggling through.
Awesome. So here's some comments from a recent Smash or Pass Revisited that myself and Mike did. Debbie Tippett said, always learning, love this. John David Horton said, love this video. Rob Wink Demon said, thanks for the insight, boys. Michael K said, great video. And then we had Fusion that said, this is meaningless. Great idea, but you don't show anything, just talking. If you are trying to learn, this is useless. And so the reason I thought I'd highlight this comment is it's fascinating to me how frequently I see this in the comment section, where, you know, a handful of people will get tons of value from it, and then someone else will comment really belittling or tearing down the video. And this to me is just a great example of, you know, you get what you put in. So I think a lot of times people, when they find my videos, they're already in a certain mindset, and that mindset's really going to dictate what they get out of that video. So if, you know, they've just been on a dark spiral of YouTube and they're just like leaving hateful comment after hateful comment, that's often what they end up leaving on my channel. Whereas the people that are looking to really learn or level up, they're able to take away real poignant facts or perspectives from it. So I just want to challenge everyone watching this video right now. It's really important that we become aware that not only what we put out into the world is that like one more breadcrumb along the trail of who you are as a human being leading back to you, but even more so, like the more negativity you put out there, I think the more negativity you're going to find.
Yeah, agree. A lot of people like the reflection videos. Reflecting is great. The overall core principle of this video was two things. I think one, that time in real estate beats trying to time the market, and two, you should look back and reflect on what you did to learn and improve from, you know, the bad mistakes that we made. Like, we passed on a lot of properties that were great, and that's a mistake. That's a learning opportunity there. Yeah,
and so building upon that, we've got a comment here from Dylan Norrie. And he says, sometimes I feel like I jumped on the bus too late. Then a video like this reminds me that in another 5 years, I'll wish I bought more 5 years ago. Thanks, Matt and Mike. P.S. I dropped you a business email, Matt. Cheers. Awesome, Dylan. Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that comment, because I think it's a perspective it's a perspective and fallacy people are falling for again and again when I see them comment on my YouTube channel. Sure, he made his money in 2016, but good luck doing it now. Sure, she made her money in 2018, but good luck doing it now. Like, and no matter what it is, people are constantly looking for a scapegoat, a reason why they can't do it today, rather than asking themselves, well, how can I make this work?
Yeah. There's always an angle, there's always a play. The playbook changes, but the general theme and outline remains the same. There is a way to make money. There's a way to arbitrage, right, which is finding undervalued assets and then bringing them to market value in any market, whether it's a bear market, a flat market, a boom market. Is it harder? Will you make less money? Do you have to be a good flipper to make money in a bear market? Yes. Can you be a good flipper? Yes. Can you be a good real estate investor? Yes. We believe that if you watch Matt's channel, you watch my channel, there's enough information out there that will help you get to that stage if you want to get there. If you want to put in the effort and the time and you want to invest in that, you can do it.
100%. On a recent video Mike and myself did, we revisited a retirement quiz. We're back in, I think, 2016, 2017. We failed the retirement quiz. Spoiler alert, we failed it again in 2020. But I thought there was a great comment here from Debbie Holden, which says, Matt and Mike, you inspire me, but I'm afraid it's too late for me and my hubby. We're in our early 50s and in trouble. Could use some sound advice so we can stop the insanity of working to 65. We have a home, but with it, a large mortgage. If we sold, I anticipate making about $100,000. Would it be better to sell our place and use the capital to invest in multifamily triplex type of place to start creating passive income? We do own a trailer we could live in for less. Should we rent out our place and not sell? How do we get started? Feeling so stuck in this 9 to 5, working for 65 years and then death. Help me, please.
Yeah, we can help you. It's pretty easy to solve that problem. One, it's not too late. It's never too late.
Never too late.
You could start today, and in 5 years from now, your life will be totally different than it was. All you have to do is make some changes. From the little amount of information I see here, it sounds like you have a house with a little bit, with some equity in it. Looks like about 6 figures in equity at least. That sounds like an opportunity to take that equity out and put it to work. So that's something that you have assets right now that you could be in a way worse position right now. You could be like, I rent and have nothing. And even if you rent and have nothing, you can come back from that and make a full recovery. So you already have a huge head start, believe it or not, compared to a lot of other young 50-year-olds. And young 50s is actually like pretty young. So it's not too late. I think that the idea that you planted there about sounding like house hacking in a triplex or a duplex, that sounds like a great idea. Sounds like you get your living costs to near zero and start really getting that money you're earning into savings. You start getting your savings rate way up. You start saving. If you get your savings rate, instead of to say 50% to 70%, you could retire well before 65, right?
Absolutely.
So you don't need the whole 17 years. At 50% savings rate, it's about 17 years to reach the 4% safe withdrawal rate, which is a super conservative way to retire. I would even argue you could do it on a much different withdrawal rate. But anyway, yeah, if you can just get your savings rate up higher. So house hacking will get your living costs way down. You mentioned a trailer there at the end too. And trailers, can be a great vacation spot to get away, on the weekends or wherever. I don't know how far it is, but it sounds like an opportunity to maybe cut back. There's probably like trailer park fees like $300 a month. There's probably costs to maintain that, the time investment to maintain that trailer, plus whatever the trailer is actually probably worth. Maybe 10, 15, 20 grand. Could you pare that back? Is there a way maybe, if you're only going there, say 4 weeks a year, could you rent another trailer in that trailer park for a couple $100 for the weekend and be net ahead? Could you re-engineer your life situation in a way to have the same value, the same enjoyment for less money? And so how can you be more efficient? I think there's tons of ways to be more efficient, but the most important thing to note is that by making a change today, you'll be so much more thankful tomorrow.
Cashflow Tribe. Hey YouTube, have you checked out Cashflow Tribe yet? It doesn't matter whether you're an experienced, seasoned investor or brand new to the game. I can probably predict if you're currently not having the level of success you want as a real estate investor, it's due to one thing. That one thing is you're not making enough offers, plain and simple. You need to be making more offers as a real estate investor if you want to hit those big, audacious goals that you're setting for yourself. So here's the deal. Cashflow Tribe, that's the community that myself and Ben were making together. And so Ben's actually so busy trying to provide value to you guys that he had to take off there. But here's the deal. Cashflow Tribe is really a one-of-a-kind community focused on results. That's the difference between us and everyone else. We want to get you guys those results. I'm tired of seeing people commenting on my YouTube channel for 2-3 years now, but they're not making offers. What's holding you back? I'm going to guess that it's either a lack of confidence or a lack of competence. And we cover both of those things in Cashflow Tribe. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make you guys a 7-day free trial offer. You can join Cashflow Tribe completely free, get it tested out. If you like it, great, stay and pay. If you don't, well, I hope you at least find one great idea that you can take away and use to start making more offers, gain more deals, and finally start making the money related to real estate investing that's probably why you're watching my YouTube channel. So let's do this, guys. Let's make 2020 your year. Cashflow Tribe.
Maybe 10, 15, 20 grand. Could you pare that back? Is there a way maybe, if you're only going there, say 4 weeks a year, could you rent another trailer in that trailer park for a couple $100 for the weekend and be net ahead? Could you re-engineer your life situation in a way to have the same value, the same enjoyment for less money. And so how can you be more efficient? I think there's tons of ways to be more efficient, but the most important thing to note is that by making a change today, you'll be so much more thankful tomorrow.
Yeah, 100% agree with everything Mike said. And one other little comment that I just want to kind of tease out from Debbie's comment here was, she asked, should she maybe start renting out the house she currently lives in? This is something I see people constantly trying to do, and that's where you're taking something that was bought as a principal residence and trying to force it to become an investment. You know, like in rare situations it may work out, but 99% of the time this is the wrong choice. You're going to be better off liquidating that asset, taking the proceeds and reinvesting it into something that was purposely acquired for the purpose of being an investment. So just really wanted to be clear on that, because I see so many people do it, and your intentions are in the right place, but the results you're going to get are going to be subpar because you never acquired that property for the purpose of being an investment.
It likely doesn't produce income. And one quick rule of thumb is, like, could you rent your house right now for 1% of its market value per month? So if it's a $500,000 house, could you get $5,000 a month in rent? If the answer is no, you should probably sell it and buy an income property that would be able to produce that type of cash flow. And the last little tax tip, pro tip for you, Debbie, if you sell your house and you've lived in it as your primary residence, it's a tax-free sale.
So that's huge.
If you live in Canada or United States.
Yeah. Continuing on the comment train, here's just a comment from Hamid Sikh, and he says, Mike is bae.
I hadn't seen this comment. Thank you.
So we've got Tutatonium saying retirement is for really old people. If you do what you love, you can't stop even if you are financially free. So I definitely agree with that sentiment, but I think one of the big challenges I would throw back at you on it is you may not quit it, but it can still quit you. And that's a misconception I see people make time and time again. I love my job. I would never quit my job, so I don't need to worry about the financial implications of not planning for my financial future. While I get it, and you may love your job today, your job can fall out of love with you the same way you can fall out of love with your job. So it's really important that you understand that even if you love your job, even if you would do the work for free, that's still no argument for not keeping your financial life in order.
100% agree. I think everyone should be striving towards a level of financial freedom, even if it's not pure financial independence, that they have the reserves there, that they can leave a job that gets toxic, that they have that ability to, if something changes, they can pivot and shift. So having options is a big piece of the FIRE movement. And yeah, I really do think that's super important.
Okay, so jumping on to another comment on our retirement quiz, we had Accomplished Theory comment, nothing wrong with having a paid off house when you retire, even an early retiree. You don't necessarily have to have debt up to your eyeballs, even though the money is cheap. I also wouldn't advise to rent in your retirement either. Never know when you'll get that N12. Then Ricardo Cruz jumped in there just saying, it all depends on your lifestyle. If you like to move around, then renting might be a safer bet and is less of a hassle than buying and then trying to sell a couple of months from now. So I completely agree with Ricardo's point there. I think it really does come down to your exact lifestyle situation. For example, right now I'm renting in this house because that makes the most financial sense. It can often be cheaper to rent. There's way too often I think we come up against this preconceived notion that assumes that owning must always be the financially optimal solution, and that really isn't the case. We really need to look at the housing supply, what's going on in your market, and then really drill down to the exact niche of property that you're looking to live in.
I agree entirely with all of that. I think that house hacking can be fantastic too. You can find a way to engineer the house that you live in so that you don't have to worry about the bank like foreclosing. The comment kind of thinly veils or even like blatantly calls out the fact that like you should have your paid off house, and like I will never pay off my house ever. I think it's a bad use of capital to guarantee yourself a 3% rate of return. I think you could live in a situation that'd be much better by having, you know, debt to be to your advantage. Debt is cheap, and he makes the point, I think, there that you know, you shouldn't have debt up to your eyeballs. I think debt is relative to the cash flow that you are currently receiving. So if you have, you know, a few $1 million in debt, but you're making $1 million a year in cash flow, you can more than service the debt. And so the risk is proportionate to various factors associated with that. If that debt was against, you know, appreciating real estate that had no cash flow, we might be in a different situation, might have a different conversation. I think if you understand the nuts and bolts of how we acquired our debt and the way that we have deployed against certain assets, you wouldn't feel like it's as high risk as, you know, as it is. Even in a, you know, you can go watch our video we did on talking about what happens in a recession. I forget what the video was called. It was like, we're talking about
market crash. Yeah.
Market crash. So go check out that video. We went like 35 minutes down to a deep rabbit hole about some of those worst case scenarios with interest rates rising and with, the property market going into a really bare time where there's just huge crash in real estate prices and how we would still survive and not have our debt likely called. But yeah, fair point about not being too underwater in debt, especially if it's bad debt. I could see that point. So I can understand where you're coming from, and I can understand that mindset. My parents obviously want to pay off their house, and they still believe that that psychology, the psychological comfort of having a paid off house is worth the terrible guaranteed return. And if that's your goal, cool. Just know that you need X amount more in retirement to reach that goal, and this many more years working to feel that level of comfort that you don't really need.
Yeah, I think it's really important we understand debt is just a tool. And like any tool, it can be used to our betterment or our detriment. And it's really important that we, depersonalize, de-egoize the entire concept of debt. Way too often people get caught up in their headspace. It's just a tool, guys. Use it to your betterment and you'll be better off for it. So jumping into our dark side of frugality video where we exposed Mike Grosshart's his lean fire growing to Lux fire, we had a comment here from Louis Bot, which I thought was great. And Louis Bot said, frugality was a scarcity mindset until I read Early Retirement Extreme. There's a good kind of frugality that is actually just knowing that you don't need a lot of stuff you're conditioned to buy. It can help you learn to appreciate and be happy with simple things. It's better for the environment and it puts you in touch with who you actually are without the consumerism. Being cheap or overly frugal is the opposite though. You're just conditioning yourself to be unhappy and dissatisfied every time you spend money. I think that's an amazing comment, Louis Bot. I think that really, really fleshes out the full concept, in my opinion, and Mike's opinion, as far as what frugality truly is and what frugality isn't.
I'm literally going to share this comment on Instagram right now.
So it's got Mike's seal of approval.
At Mike Grossart, if you want to see it, Louis Bot. There, posted.
I completely agree. There definitely is a subset of frugality or minimalism that's very focused on scarcity. And anything that kind of has an emotional component to it, in my opinion, isn't going to help you out in the long-term game of life. So I think it's really important that we understand frugality is about efficiency. It's about conscious consumption. It's not about deprivation.
Everything in this comment I love. I loved it so much I just shared it on my feed for 1,000 people to go watch. It is how I feel in my heart. Don't be cheap. Being cheap is not the right way to go about things. Don't, sacrifice to the point of everything in that comment I just entirely agree with. It's about conscious consumption and it's about being methodical with how you deploy your resources. 100% agree. And even to this day, when I go back and visit the Early Retirement Extreme book for just going back to my foundation, even now when I read it, I'm not frugal the way I used to be, and I'm not, I actually spend a lot more than I used to spend, right? And everything that's said in there is entirely true.
Now we're going to move on to Canada's youngest retiree exposed. This was the video where we talked about the troubles Mike was having with the CBC and the tenant eviction and things of that nature. And so I just thought there were some good comments that we could kind of focus on as well.
There's just a ton of support in this video. It was great because I think your audience is are pro-landlord or at least own some real estate assets. And I think if you're a tenant and you're watching, a lot of tenants have never owned real estate. And so they can't understand that there's a lot of work associated with this, or the idea that hey, we're investing large amounts of money and time and we need to actually make a profit or else why would we be doing it? Mm-hmm. And so I think people who actually own real estate can understand how horrible the situation is. And so I wish everyone had the chance to empathize or put themselves in the same shoes as us landlords have had to walk, and Matt's experienced similar types of units left in similar conditions, and it's terrible. It's horrible that this happens, and there is a dark side. Honestly, we should have a dark side to real estate investing, some of the negatives, right? Because I think a lot of people do videos on Instagram and even just everywhere, all over YouTube, that talk about making money and burring, but no one talks about their failed flip. No one talks about their failed burr. Everyone who you have on your channel will talk about their successes, and no one wants to talk about their failures, right? It's embarrassing to talk about your failures, and in a flat market, we have a lot more failures than we've had, right? A lot of bad investors making a lot of mistakes have made a lot of money because the market was forgiving, because we appreciated so much that it covered up the fact that they did a terrible job on their flip, or that it wasn't really a burr, it was just they held it for 5 years and there was appreciation. So everyone's like, oh, I've made a burr. But there's a lot of mistakes you make in real estate, and you can lose money. Let's not forget that real estate is an equity investment. And whenever you make an equity investment, it is not like debt where it is secured and guaranteed. There is an inherent level of risk. I argue you can manage that risk, and Matt argues we can manage that risk effectively. But if you don't manage that risk effectively, I think the whole side of the coin, to see both sides of the coin on this channel, there is a lot of negative. There's a lot of hard times where you're going to have to deal with like some of the roughest tenants potentially, or a tenant destroying your unit, or a professional tenant that fakes everything, including photoshopping like bank statements and credit score and everything. And it's one of those things where you can actually be duped to the point where this stuff will happen, and you have to be ready and prepared on how to deal with that. And that's the important piece. It's not a reason to not invest in real estate. It's just something to be cognizant of.
Absolutely agree. And so here's a comment from Hippie Mippy. You need to accept losses. It's a business. Don't say that I'm going to pass it along. Actually pass it along though. Do it, but just don't mention you're eating the loss. Some people want to hurt you. Let them think they have hurt you and be satisfied with themselves so that they leave you alone. Don't make a political thing. Try and settle the things and learn from the experience. You had 2 problem tenants there. One was a junkie, one was a drama junkie. Guess which one is going to ruin your business more? We know about the economy, but you need to learn about strategy. Sometimes you need to lose a battle or 2 in order to win the war. Be strategic. Don't mention raising the rent that many times. Do it without mentioning it. That article was a PR hit. Don't give them ammunition. People are going to watch this and hear blah, 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 blah. I'm going to raise rent, blah, blah. This was one of those don't talk to the police moments. Never dig a deeper hole. You're becoming rich. You need to learn about people with deeper pockets, problem solving. You're becoming a target, and your industry is becoming a target. Lay low and weather the storm and learn from all of these. So I get where you're coming from, Hippie Mippy, and overall, from a general business strategy, I don't even disagree with the sentiments that you're putting out there. What I do disagree with, though, is this assumption that we just have to accept social norms for what they are. I think that that's a reason why myself and Mike are both on social media and really trying to change the perspective that landlords and tenants have of each other, because right now I think society is setting us up to be pinned against each other, and that, you know, articles like the CBC did are just going to further that sort of stereotype or that perspective for real estate investors and the tenants that are living in their investments. So I agree. In general, there's some times when you're better off to just kind of let that storm blow over rather than standing your ground. However, I think Mike and myself both kind of see ourselves as influencers and really as trying to set the gold standard for what it means to be a real estate investor. So as part of that, we're not going to be the guys that probably just let that storm blow over. We're going to want to really stand up for landlord rights, because you know what happens if no one ever stands up for landlord rights? They keep eroding. And you know what eventually happens? We're going to have worse and worse affordability issues, and we're eventually going to get to a point where either the government's going to want to step in and completely control the real estate market, which, like, let's not even go down that rabbit hole, comrade, because you do not want the government getting to dictate where you get to live. That's just a recipe for disaster. And on the flip side of things, again, if we're not really showcasing what landlords are actually dealing with in today's market here in Ontario, Canada, I think we're doing our audience a disservice by only showing the sunny side of real estate investing as well. So anything you want to add to that, Mike?
You know, I've got some good advice from like a lawyer and some other people in my network who said, like, they basically said to me, like, why go out? Why even acknowledge like the article? Like, I, for instance, did an interview and explain my side of the story with CBC, and I'm doing this piece now to share my side of the story, right? And again, a lot of what Matt said, I'm thinking that the benefit is someone's going to see this and be like, okay, I don't want to fall into the same situation. But a further benefit, and my main hope with this video, was that people would rally together and say, hey, the Residential Tenancy Act or the Landlord Tenant Board current systems in which we operate in Ontario, Canada, are not fair to landlords. I had to pay this person to leave because the system would have taken me months and months and months to evict them, and my property would have had tens of thousands more in damage, right? And I would have had issues with other tenants, etc. There's not a lot in a landlord's toolbox to deal with this situation, and that's the point that the CBC missed, that they should have pointed out, was that the landlord was trying their best this case, I was trying my best to remediate the situation. There isn't a good tool in my box that allowed me to solve this issue, right? A bad tenant was placed, and now we have a situation where it's terrible for everyone. It's terrible for the tenant that was the tenants that were harassed in the building by the tenant. It's terrible for the tenant themselves. They need mental health help. They just came out of a facility. There's an actual need here. If we look at the underlying problems here, there's some societal problems that I think people want to just push off on the landlord, and I don't think that's a fair burden for the landlord to bear. I think it's actually society in general needs to bear that, whether that's through, I don't want to say increased rent, but that's what happens. If you put it on the private sector to deal with, we are going to raise the money to deal with the problems, and so that means raised rents. So by forcing this on us, you're actually costing affordability, and there's a number of other issues here. So yeah, I think that at the end of the day, the reason I stood up and took the fall, what was it? I just wanted to create a better system. And so at the end of the day, there is some negatives, and I think there are some solid points in here. If you're thinking about getting onto social media, and maybe you don't want to raise capital, your goal is just to get out there to share and help with others, just know that in the process of sharing, I've had my fair share of hit pieces, quite a few of them actually, and I've had tenants, for instance, at the landlord tenant board, play my videos. Oh, he's rich, and the adjudicator agreed I should pay double the fine because I'm rich. What? Because I have assets, you should take more? That's a socialist mindset. That's the landlord tenant board right now. So be careful if you're a landlord managing your own properties. If you put yourself out there on social media, you put your neck out there to try to help someone, you could get cut. So just be careful of that. I'm not saying don't go on social media, but Matt has all the content right here on his channel, so who needs to reinvent 100 more YouTube videos on the same thing again? Because everyone's making YouTube videos on the exact same content that already exists out there. That's not really adding any real value. So just maybe you're not adding as much value as you think, and if you're just getting started and thinking about making a YouTube channel, maybe don't, or maybe do. You do you, but there are definitely dark sides.
Yeah, so just kind of building upon that, it's really important that we understand that there are pros and cons to social media, right? We were talking about earlier when we were talking about leverage. Again, social media, it's just a tool. Like any tool, it can be used to our betterment or our detriment, and it really is up to us. Now, ignoring the tool completely, I don't think does us a lot of good either. So it's important that you make an active decision about social media, and that active decision can be to not engage on it. And I know a lot of very successful real estate investors, and that's the path they've chosen. And there's trade-offs there. They're more obscure, and that can be good and bad, right? And again, for myself and Mike Rosehart, I think our businesses wouldn't be where they are today without social media. We've definitely reaped a lot of benefits from it as well. But it's just really important that we all take a step back and try and think, what are you trying to accomplish with your entire approach or strategy for social media and your real estate investing business? For us, it's a lot more than just the real estate investment business. It's about starting a movement. It's why we've both got mentee houses. It's both why we both employ dozens of people, right? It's more than just a strategy to reach financial independence in our opinions. And again, it's really important that you guys drill down into the granular behind your why. And that's going to really help you better understand what to do when it comes to social media. In general, I'm going to encourage you guys to embrace it because it's here to stay. And the scary thing to me isn't that you're going to have these negative, combative pieces about you. What's scarier is that will become the only narrative about you. How much worse do you think it would have been, Mike, had someone done that CBC article and there was nothing else on the internet about Mike Rosehart? In my opinion, what ends up happening in that moment is they control the complete narrative. And that to me is even scarier than potentially coming up against some of these abrasive situations.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. You want to tell your side of the story too. The reason I think that the article even made it that far though is because I had a social profile. Sure. I think that they hunted that down and found it, and
it gave them more ammunition.
If you guys want to see a video on the pros and cons of social media and maybe the dark side of social media, maybe let us know in the comments. If that's a video you guys want to hear, and there's enough people that want to hear about that video, I'm sure Matt would make that video. So in the comments, if you're still watching at the end of this video, say, hey, love to see a video exploring and exposing whether or not you should be on YouTube. Should you have a YouTube channel? Is it worth your time investment? that sort of thing. We can talk about the pros and the cons.
So if you guys enjoyed this video, jump into the comment section, just like Mike was saying, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, all that good stuff. But what we'd really love to know is, did you enjoy us going through our comment section? If you guys got value from it, we're more than happy to do more videos like this. If you guys got no value, just tell us to shut up and go back to the numbers. All right, again, appreciate you guys watching this video. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks again to Mike for taking the time to sit down with me and just kind of go through these comments. Turns out they weren't nearly as bad as I thought they might be. Sometimes the comments, they can get a little feisty, but really appreciate those of you that do leave meaningful comments. Even those of you that just post us a thumbs up or a fire emoji. It really does help us with the YouTube algorithm, and we just appreciate the feedback, guys. So again, jump in that comment section, give us your feedback. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.